Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher. Super excited to be before you all for yet another live stream night as we continue our conversations around student loans, all that you want to know, all that you need to know around conversations of what you can do, what you should do, or maybe even wanting to get clarity around the process of what you may want to do next. We've been covering a lot right here on the Debt Demolisher TV over the past few months. Not only speaking about the public service loan forgiveness and the limited waiver that expired October 31st, 2022, but also the announcements that were related to the one-time debt relief and the debt relief student plan, or the debt relief plan that was announced on August 24th, 2022. We know that there are a lot of litigations and things that are in place that's kind of hindering the 10K or the 20K one-time debt relief, but there are still some things and measures in place as it relates to the other parts of the student debt plan, which is the extension of the repayment pause, as well as the introduction to the new income-driven repayment plan that is set to be able to come out relatively soon. So if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat. I am here at your leisure while I have a little bit of time before I get started on the Vet Your Spending Challenge for tonight. We are winding down on the last few days of the 30-day challenge. So for the past 26 days, this is now day 27. I've been going live every single day on my YouTube channel, The Debt Demolisher, helping people get money conscious around their holiday spending and how to reposition not only their approach to holiday spending, but also thinking of it in a way where they could actually save some coins more so in all aspects, even while still giving and just making sure that you know your true reason for the season. So we've been going hard over there. I've been reviewing growth work. I've been shooting videos and sharing lessons and live stream conversations every night. So my November is oftentimes pretty thick because of the work that I do over there for this annual challenge. But we're winding down. So thankfully by Wednesday, I'll be done. I'll be done with that. So Q Scott is here. Hi, Q Scott. Our moderator's in the building. Also, our moderator on the Debt Demolisher TV. So glad that you're here. She's saying happy Sunday and happy Sewing Sunday to you, Q Scott. So glad that you're here. She's welcoming all of the TikTok family into the room. Welcoming all of the TikTok family into the room. So please feel free to answer your questions if you have any. In the meantime, we're going to talk about the latest and the greatest. As I've shared the last live stream session that I've discussed, when I went live on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday that I last went live. And I was sharing with you guys the latest update around the now extended repayment pause. So for those of us who have federal student loans, and we know that we've been under this repayment pause period, whereby your federal student loans have been currently assigned a interest rate of 0, as well as your required monthly payment is 0. And if you are on this repayment pause, that means you have federal loans. And what the Department of Education has done they have extended the repayment pause to allow you to no longer really have to make a payment. I mean, you can still make voluntary payments, but you're not required to make a payment during this pandemic time. So this has been in effect since March of 2020, and it was set to expire initially August the 31st. And then when the announcement came out around the 3-part plan, that extended the repayment pause through December 31st, 2022. But now, because of the litigations and the blocks and all of that stuff that has kind of been taken up by one of the district courts in Texas, the Department of Education has decided to extend the repayment pause a little bit further in efforts to help alleviate the litigation blocks that have been put in place. And if worse comes to worse, if they're not able to be successful in this process of trying to get through the loophole or the block that has been placed, then what they'll do is they're going to give the final extension up until June 30th of 2023. So if they aren't able to get anything rectified, if they're not able to stand up their program, which is a part of the 3-part plan that I was telling you guys about, then we have until June 30th before they lift the restriction. And once we hit that June 30, it's 60 days from that date. So you won't have to start paying back until 60 days after that June 30 date, or 60 days after they are able to stand up their programs, or 60 days after the litigation has been resolved. So it's essentially whichever comes first is what it will be, and it's 60 days after whatever that date is. So if you're currently experiencing a repayment pause, it was set to expire at the ending of next month. That is now going to be extended until this litigation is either able to be resolved, or until they're able to stand up their programs, or until we reach June 30th, 2023, and then 60 days after each of those points, whichever one comes first. So the first question that I see here is, I completed the loan debt forgiveness for the Parent Plus loan, but have not heard back via email. So first, let me ask you, which loan debt forgiveness did you apply for? So I'm assuming you're referring to the one-time debt relief. So if you submitted an application for the one-time debt relief, which is either the 10K or the 20K, this is the conversation that I was telling you guys about how the district court in Texas had essentially put a block on them being able to execute on the actual one-time debt relief. So for those of you who have already submitted your applications, either during the beta period or during the time that it went live, the Department of Education has still been processing those applications. And when I say processing, I mean that they have been reviewing them to determine what the eligibility is. So many of you may have received notifications indicating that, hey, you qualify, or hey, you've been approved, but the actual release of the relief money, meaning it being applied to your student loan debt accounts, will not occur until they're able to resolve all of these issues from the court standpoint. So if you receive something back that says that you are approved, but they can't do anything, that's because they can't. At this point, they cannot. But once they get that green light, then you already know that you have your approval letter, and then of course they're going to be able to process it. If you did not receive anything yet, it could be, number one, I'm going to ask you, when you originally submitted your application for the one-time debt relief, did you receive a confirmation email from them? If you received a confirmation email from them, then you should be fine at the time that you registered or at the time that you applied. But if you did not receive any confirmation, if you did not get anything back at that point in time, more than likely something might have happened where it might not have really gotten to them, because for every application that was submitted, you should have received an email confirmation. So it could be either you might have mistyped your email, or it could be either that if you did it during the beta period, maybe it kind of maybe got lost in cyberspace, who knows. But if you got that email confirmation, but you just didn't get anything back yet, it could be that they're still trying to process or still trying to work through the rest of the applications that have come in. But if you did not get an email confirmation, then more than likely it probably didn't get picked up, or it could be that your information was put in incorrectly, and so they're trying to send it to an email address that might have been inputted invalid. But one of the things that they did do during the application process was have you put in your email address twice. So hopefully if there were no errors in your email, then I would double check. Have you heard anything about forgiveness or corrections for the forbearance that was no valid? So they are doing the forbearance updates in phases. So they started in the fall. So it could be that maybe they're still trying to work through yours. So when I was talking about the forbearance catch-ups, and these are for those who will essentially be qualified for public service loan forgiveness, because that's really where it's going to count, and for those who will be qualified for IDR forgiveness, because that's really where your periods are going to count specifically. If you fall under any of those two categories, once they do their true up, then you'll be able to kind of get your updates to see that. Now, they just started doing it, so if you aren't seeing any updates just yet, just give it a little bit of time, because they do have a number of updates and account changes that they're going to have to make as a result of the reviews that they're doing. So they're doing true ups for IDR adjustments. They're doing true ups for PSLF limited waiver updates. They're doing true ups as well, even for And I wouldn't even really say the COVID piece, because with the COVID piece, it's still like in an end status. Your required payment is just 0. So that should still count for you. That should still count for you. If I did not qualify for PSLF. Okay, so if you did not qualify for PSLF, then of course you would not be eligible to receive PSLF. However, if you were on an income-driven repayment plan and you were on, which is an IDR, you could possibly, of course, be eligible for IDR forgiveness, which is you would have to be on an IDR plan for 20 or 25 years, if I'm not mistaken, depending on which plan that you're on. So I'm not sure if that falls under your purview, if you were always on an IDR or not, but the true-up adjustments will definitely go for those who are on income-driven repayment plans, as well as for those who are on who qualify for PSLF as well. Will I get back what I paid during the COVID relief? I've been approved. I got the email. So the only way that you can get back what you paid, if you paid during the voluntary period times, is you're going to have to work with your loan servicer to request those funds back. If you want to wait until the one-time debt relief kind of goes through and is processed, and again, we don't know the timeline for that, and we don't even know if fully they're going to be able to win the argument. I'm praying that they will be able to kind of fight and win at the Supreme Court level, but I'm just saying for both cases, so that way you won't be saying, oh, okay, it's going to be a guarantee, because it's not necessarily guaranteed. We won't know. But I want to give you both phases so that way you can kind of look at your situation from where you are. But if you know that you paid during the times where we were under a repayment pause and you did not have to pay, you can work with your loan servicer right now to put in a request to say that you want to be able to get your money back. So if you do that, you work with your loan servicer will be responsible for giving you any excess of those funds back. But you have to recognize and realize that that's going to be considered a payment reversal. So then your student loan balance will then go up. But depending on how much you qualify for, if your letter said that you qualify for $10,000, if your letter said that you qualify for $20,000, if you know that your loan balances are going to be less than those amounts, even after they reverse out the payments, because they're going to issue you your refund for the monies that you paid, then you know that your relief money will cover it. The only caveat where you will be getting a check from the relief money is if you just opt out to just let the relief money do what it does, and then there's a window where they see that you've made excess payments during the times of repayment pause, and you have some funding left over between whatever your remaining balance is and whatever your relief money amount was. You will get a check back for that difference, just up to the amount that you paid in excess, which would mean during those times where you did not have to pay. So I don't know what your current stipulation is or how much you paid or what your situation is, but just take all of those things into consideration. You have 2 routes that you can do at this point. You can contact the loan servicer directly and say, hey, I want to be able to request a refund for the monies that I paid. Or if you want to wait until the relief happens, if it happens, and you know you're only going to get your excess back up to the amount that you've actually paid in excess, but up to the cap of whatever your relief is. So can we still apply? So as far as I'm concerned, I think their website was down. I was trying to see if it will still allow you to apply for it. Let me just double check to make sure that it's still up there, because I always like to make sure that I'm giving you guys updates in real time. Okay, so it does not look like, I don't see an option for you to apply right now. So you can't submit any new applications right now until the block is done. But once the block is done, they're going to reopen the application and so forth. So they're not accepting applications at this time. But for those of you who had already applied, they were already going through those forms to see who qualified and who didn't. So that's just kind of where that is. But once the block is lifted, they're going to reopen the application. I applied for PSLF and have not heard anything. So if you've applied for PSLF, you do want to give them some time. But what I would do is I would go to mohila.com and I would check the PSLF status. So if you have not done that yet, you might want to go that route to see where Mohila is saying the status of your application is. They have created a form or an application tool for you to be able to go on their website. You go to mohila.com, mohela.com. You're going to click on the PSLF tab. You're going to hit that little drop down menu and you're going to select PSLF form status. When you select PSLF form status, it's going to ask you for some personal identifiable information, which is going to be your social security number, your name, and then your date of birth. You're going to put that information in and it'll route you to share what your status is. So that's what I would do first if you know that you've applied, but you haven't heard anything back yet. It is going to take them some time to process all the applications and stuff, so just be patient in that regard, but I would definitely make sure that you check with the PSLF form status to get that. Can you appeal if PSLF gave 23 months but should have been longer? Yes, you can. There is a process where you can request a reconsideration. So for public service loan forgiveness purposes, if you feel like your counts are inaccurate, if you feel like they didn't give you enough, and again, let me just say this before I talk about the reconsideration piece, it could be that your updates are happening piecemeal. So remember I was saying a little bit earlier that they're doing these updates in phases. They have to do the IDR true-ups, they have to do the limited time waiver true-ups, and so there's going to be phases that they're trying to update your counts. So if you apply for public service loan forgiveness, especially during this limited time waiver, you're going to be getting multiple iterations of updates of what your qualifying payments are. So if you just see that you only had 23 months, it could be that that's the 23 months related to the COVID period. Because believe it or not, I believe we've been in this COVID posture for maybe a little bit more than 24 months, but I don't know like what your status is and so forth. But it could just be that piece. It could be that. They probably have not done the IDR adjustments true-ups yet. If you just submitted your application for the first time, or if you were already a public service loan forgiveness person and you were submitting your certification forms and you're telling me that your number hasn't changed since then, or if you're just putting it in during this period and you're seeing that there's 23 months, it could be that they're trying to, update your applications or update your statuses because they're updating accounts in phases. But even still, if you feel like they're telling you that this is your final number, they only giving you 23 months, you could definitely go through the process of reconsideration. And so if you go to studentaid.gov's website, or if you just type in Google, this would be the easiest way to find it. Type in Google PSLF reconsideration, and if you type in PSLF reconsideration, you can look for the studentaid.gov URL. Make sure it's the studentaid.gov URL. Click there, and it'll tell you the process of what you need to do to request for a reconsideration. And essentially, that'll be like a recount. So that's a process that you can do for that. Mine just said that they had my info, but the memo line in the email said my application was approved. Okay, so if they said that it was approved, then that means you met the criteria for the one-time debt relief. And so they're telling you that. Hold on to that email. Save that email. Don't discard that email. Make sure that you hold on to it, because if that email came from the Department of Education, it came from an authoritative source, then you know that that's your evidence that they have processed your application and they have given you a status. So you are one of the lucky ones who will be able to receive the relief once this whole block thing has been taken care of and resolved. But definitely make sure that you hold on to that if that is the case for you. Is there an application for that, or is there something that will automatically do? I'm not sure which one you're referring to. Are you referring to the repayment pause or for the IDR forgiveness? So IDR forgiveness, let me see. I don't believe you have to, but let me just see something. Because I believe it's automatic, but let me just make sure, because I don't want to misspeak. So it looks like it's automatic. So any borrower with loans that have accumulated time in repayment of at least 20 or 25 years will see automatic forgiveness. So it's automatic for the IDR forgiveness. So if you've been on an IDR plan for 20 or 25 years, depending on which IDR plan that you're on, then you will automatically receive forgiveness under the IDR piece. Okay. My daughter tried to apply from Texas and it said the site was closed. Yeah, so if you're trying to apply for the one-time debt relief, it's not available right now. You cannot apply. They've closed down the application portal as a result of the temporary block that I was just explaining. Wendy says, thanks for the info. You're so welcome. Hey, what is going on with the Fresh Start program? I've reached maximum financial aid. So the Fresh Start program is still in effect as far as I'm concerned. So if you may not be eligible. So that could be one thing, because you have to Fresh Start. Because I did a video on this as well, explaining the process for it. Yeah, because that's been around since April of 22, so there's no impact there. If your loans are eligible, you will temporarily regain several student aid benefits. You also get the opportunity to get out of default and keep those benefits long term. So I think it would depend on what kind of loans you have. And again, I don't know your situation. I don't know, what your student aid or student borrowing portfolio looks like. But that's why I was saying it could be that you may not be eligible for it. But if you have not tried, one of the things that you want to try to do is go to studentaid.gov or just simply Google what I just did, Fresh Start Program, studentaid.gov, and it'll take you right to the site to explain all the benefits, what you need to do, what do I need to do? Let's go over this right now. It says that we'll reach out to you in the coming months with info about what you need to do. In the meantime, make sure your loan holder has your most up-to-date contact information so you don't miss important messages about the Fresh Start. So that would be the first thing that I would do. I would make sure whoever your loan servicer is, that your contact information is correct, your contact information is up to date. And then if you don't know who holds your loans, they're telling you to reach out to their default resolution group. And their default resolution group can be able to point you in the right direction to get you clarity on who you need to be speaking with or who you need to be making sure that your contact information is up to date on. So what are the loans that are eligible? So the loans that are eligible here, I'm getting ready to run this through you real quick, Miss Harris. So if you have a defaulted William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program, if you have a defaulted Federal Family Education Loan, or if you have a defaulted Perkins loan that's held by the Department of Education, those loans are eligible for the Fresh Start program. Loans that are not eligible for the Fresh Start program are Perkins loans that are held by schools. So if this is you, then you would not qualify for the Fresh Start program. So if you have a defaulted Perkins loan that is held by school, if you have a defaulted health education assistance loan programs, if you have student loans remaining with the United States Department of Justice for ongoing litigation, or if you have direct loans that default after the end of COVID-19's student loan payment pause, or if you have FFEL program loans that defaulted after the ending of the COVID-19 student loan repayment pause. So any of those loan types that fall into that category, they are not eligible for the Fresh Start program. So that's essentially it. My school has no idea what it even is. So not your school, your loan service provider. So who are your loans with would be my question to you. So who's holding your loans? I just went over the loan types that are eligible. So if you have a William D. Ford loan, if you have a defaulted Federal Family Education loan, all the defaulted loan, Perkins, defaulted FFEL, or defaulted William D. Ford loans, which are direct loans, then whoever is managing that is who you need to talk to. And if you still don't know, like I said, contact their default resolution group, and they will be able to point you in the right direction to be able to tell you that. All right. Hello, are there any info on borrower's defense? Any new schools settled? I'm still pending. So I have not seen any new updates or any new announcements related to borrower's defense updates for the findings. But let me just check just to make sure that nothing else has been updated. Because one thing that I do want to make sure that I do is give you accurate information. So let's just see what studentaid.gov says. All right. So per the borrower's defense updates, the latest one is still the last one that I announced, which was from Westwood College. So Westwood College, that was announced on August the 30th, where the Department of Education has found that they will be discharging all remaining federal student loan balances for borrowers who have attended or who has enrolled in Westwood College between January 1st, 2002 through November 17th, 2015. So they said that eligible borrowers will have their Westwood loans discharged without needing to take any additional action. So once everything gets settled and they're issuing the relief related to that, if you went to Westwood, then you would automatically see those remaining balances be removed. We also have, what are some other ones? ITT Technical Institute, that was August of 2016. We also have all Corinthians colleges, which I've talked about this before. So any college that was operated by Corinthians College, Inc., all of those schools were found to be borrower's defense held. There's a whole several list of them. I'm not going to go through all of them, but definitely there's a ton of them. So Department of Education approves borrower's defense claims for approximately 15,700 students, including from DeVry University, who will receive approximately $415 million in student loan discharge. So many of you have been asking about DeVry and so forth. They're definitely one of them. DeVry, Westwood, the nursing program at ITT Technical Institute, criminal justice programs from the Minnesota School of Business, and Globe University. So I think it's just a matter of just being patient, because it looks like if you went to a school that does not, or that was found to be guilty of this, then it should be automatic. But if it's a new claim that you're putting in because it's a new school that's not on this list, then of course it has to run its course, and they have to do their law stuff to present the case and so forth and see what the outcome will be for those. Okay, I got an email. I got an email that I was approved for one-time debt relief, but the lawsuit is holding it up. Yes, that is true. That is true. Nothing will be dispersed or nothing will be applied to your student loan balances until this litigation is resolved. Where do I sign up? There is no signing up right now for the one-time debt relief. They're not accepting any applications at this point. So until the litigation has been resolved, then of course the application will be made available for those who still need to submit if they haven't done so already. So ECMC has my loans, and they told me to contact the school about the Fresh Start program. So if they're telling you to contact the school, then that means that your, let's see what ECMC. So ECMC is a nonprofit corporation, and they handle student loan bankruptcy management and loan collection. So if they're telling you to contact the school, then more than likely you have a defaulted loan that's managed by the school. So my next question to you would be is, do you have Perkins loans? Were they defaulted Perkins loans? Or like what kind of loans are they? But if the school doesn't know, and more than likely it's probably an ineligible loan type. It more than likely is. But you have to tell me what kind of loans you have that are defaulted. What should I do now? My school is on the list. So if your school is on the list, you just got to wait it out. If your school is on the borrower's defense list, you just got to wait it out until they process whatever it is that they need to process. But I would still not put my name in the hat for the one-time debt relief, because either way, these are independent programs. So borrower's defense has nothing to do with the one-time debt relief. The one-time debt relief has nothing to do with PSLF. The one-time debt relief has nothing to do with teacher forgiveness. The one-time debt relief has nothing to do with IDR forgiveness. So each of these programs are independent of each other. So whatever can get you to relief the fastest is what I will continue to put my name in a hat for, because we don't know how long it's going to take for them to issue out the discharge for anything where there was the finding of borrower's defense for any of those schools or those universities. So if you don't have any, if it's not going to hurt you in any way to receive the one-time debt relief, then why not receive the one-time debt relief? And whenever they process whatever the discharge is, then you'll be able to get that discharge. You also want to take into consideration when it comes to the borrower's defense, it's really based on the periods in which they are covering. So even though your school may be on the list, you might not have gone to the school during the period that they're actually agreeing to the discharge. So you want to look at when your loans were originated and when they came into play to make sure that they're in alignment with whatever the findings are. Because if you look at the findings, it'll tell you the period. Like I was just reading off Westwood College. It basically said for anybody who took out loans or who was enrolled in the school between January 2022 to May 17, 2015, only that period will be able to be discharged. I don't know if that's the whole life of the school or not, but just saying, for instance, if you went to a school outside of that realm, then you would not get the discharge because that's not where the findings were resolved. So what I would suggest is really nothing that you can do. You've already done your part if you've already put in your application for the one-time debt relief, so you're fine there. If you already know that your school is found to be held liable for borrower's defense, and they said that people who went to the school don't have to do nothing, it's going to be automatic, you're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to wait. Keezer University is on the list, but not sure what LLC they fall under. I'm not even sure what that is, but I'm getting ready to find out. Let me see. Let's see if I can see what they fall under. So it's a private, nonprofit university in Florida. Let's see. See if I can find out. You know one thing I'm going to do. I'm a researcher, and I'm going to find it. Let's see. Keezer Institute of Technology. Keezer. Let's see what they fall under. Probably gonna have to do a little bit more digging because I'm not saying what school they may fall under. But I don't remember seeing this on the list. I don't remember seeing this name specifically on the borrower's defense list, but let me go back and make sure. Make sure that I ain't tripping. Student loan settlement gets preliminary approval. Lincoln Tech, Keys University, filed motions last month to intervene, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, I guess they are on the list. Because if the settlement has been granted, once the settlement goes through, then you'll more than likely get it. But I'll definitely make sure that you review all of the findings to see about that. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for bringing that up. Defaulted FFEL loans are eligible. Yes, they are. Okay, so if you have defaulted FFEL loans, then I would just say hang tight until you hear information from your it should be from your loan servicer. Even they may not know anything about it now, but if they're definitely on the list, then I would just keep an eye out on the Fresh Start program from studentaid.gov to see when they begin to announce more information. But if ECMC is managing your defaulted loans, then they should definitely kind of somewhat be aware, I guess. Are Perkins loans in default eligible? Yes, they are, as long as they are Perkins loans that are managed by the Department of Education. That's the difference. So if your Perkins loans are not managed by the Department of Education, then they are not eligible. They have to be managed by the Department of Education. Or held, let me say it like that, held by the Department of Education. I filled out my application for borrower's defense in September. Is that too late to be considered? No. You can do borrower's defense at any time. There's no cutoff. Borrower's defense program is not going anywhere as far as I'm concerned. So, yeah, this has nothing to do with any of the litigation stuff or the one-time debt relief. You can do borrower's defense at any time. Okay, the Fresh Start program, never heard of it. Yeah, Fresh Start is for those who essentially have defaulted loans and they're trying to get reinstated to be eligible to receive federal aid. Because typically when you default on federal loans, they don't allow you to be able to get any aid or any loans or anything from the government. And so because of the initiative to try to help borrowers go back to school and so forth, they've initiated this Fresh Start program to help people to be able to get more aid. Because you do know that once you run out of aid, that's it. Once you reach your cap for aid, that's it. Or once you've been in a situation where you kind of disqualified yourself from receiving aid, then that's it. And so they're trying to do this Fresh Start program to help people go back to school and not really penalize them from that regard. How about the people that consolidated and applied for PSLF? My count is 3 with 117 eligible payments. Yeah, I would just say let it catch up. They're probably trying to do your updates. So they're probably trying to get all your stuff updated. But that's amazing. If you have 117 eligible payments prayerfully, then that means you got, and your count is 3, then that's 120. That's 120 right there. So definitely let them process that. Let them process that. My college is traditional and I was defrauded because they advertised for social work. So if you believe that your school misled you, or if you believe that your school stated false promises of salary promises or career promises or whatever the case may be, you have to submit your claim through the borrower's defense application, but you have to be able to justify the facts, because you have to remember what you're submitting it as a claim is what the Department of Education, Justice, or whoever is doing to put these cases up against these schools so that they can reach a settlement agreement. So the settlement agreements are the things that are allowing the relief to happen, the discharge to happen. So they are literally suing these schools in order to get this stuff taken off. So if it's a school that has not already been under investigation, who's not been submitted to the bar's defense group, then you have to be able to show and give them evidence that can help them pose their case. So and you'll go through the process. If you go to studentaid.gov, if you look up bar's defense, it's going to walk you through everything that you need to be able to provide and supply to support your argument of why you're submitting a bar's defense claim against this particular institution. So you'll have to be responsible for proving that or helping them prove that, so that way that they can, so that they can. I went to hers in college, then changed to a university. What would I do? I'm not sure. Are you saying when you went there, it was hers in college and now they changed names and you want to do bar's defense? I would just go to the bar's defense application process and go through there. I believe Capella is on the list. I believe Capella is on the list too. I feel like I saw their name on the list. I believe they may be. Join A. Thank you, Q Scott. Join A. Feel free to post if you have a question. Yes, make sure that you post if you have a question. Do you think the loan forgiveness will kick back in next year? Are you talking about the one-time debt relief? I'm praying that it'll work out. Again, I can't say yay or nay. To me, at this point, it's really going to be up to how the argument can be defended in court and who's going to be the presiding judge over whatever evidence is presented. So I'm not a lawyer by any means, but I think, it's really all about how you state the case and what kind of defense that you have. So I can't really speak for what the government is going to do or what I think they're going to do. But if you just kind of think about like how courts and law and all of that stuff works, it's based on evidence and burden of proof and how you can show that. So I'm praying and being in optimism that the route that they're going to take, which is why they're going through the appeal process and taking it up a notch and taking it to the Supreme Court level to override it, that they have a pretty strong stance and believe that they have a strong argument that can back them up. But I'm praying that it'll work out. So the only thing that I can do is just encourage you guys to be optimistic as well. And for those of you who disagree and aren't happy about it, by all means, keep your comments to yourself and let us who are trying to be optimistic and focus on, having some form of help to be able to receive that. I hope so, because I'm trying to buy a house outside of student loans. I have $20,000 in debt. And I can tell you guys from several experiences, just from clients who I've worked with and those who have extreme challenges, who are seeing the impact on their credit score and their debt to income ratio, which is causing them not to be able to be eligible to qualify for a home. So many, and this is how all of this stuff how I even started this conversation around student loan forgiveness in the first place, because I was talking about that and how it affects your home ownership and all of that stuff. But a lot of people who I've worked with, their student loans are so high and their required payment on that loan has been so high that it's impacting them from a credit standpoint, because their debt to income ratio is way out of whack. And essentially, initially, you want to be able to keep that loan to value, but that debt to income ratio, I would say no more than 40%. So 40% or less. And when you look at your debt to income ratio, that is based on the actual minimum payments that are required per your credit report in comparison to what your monthly income is. So if you take all of your minimum payments that you're required to pay on all of your debt types, you add that up and then you divide that by your income, that's going to give you your debt to income ratio, meaning your monthly gross income. So if that number is anywhere near or over 50%, 60%, 70%, you can scratch that. you can scratch that, because that's not going to make it through underwriting, because you're so top heavy in debt and you're not going to be able to manage the monthly payments. Now, I will say this, because of this limited, I'm sorry, not this limited, but because of the payment pause, you do have to realize that since the payment pause had went into effect, your required payment was 0. So even if you apply for something, even though you might have a large overall balance on your credit report, the required payment, which is what impacts your debt to income ratio, was 0 during that time. So some people could essentially work out, I guess, a little bit to their favor by having that required payment reflect as 0. But we all know that once we go back into repayment status, Lord knows what your required payment is going to be. And you don't want to be in a situation where you can't afford your student loans and you can't afford the mortgage that you've just taken out. So it's very important to take these things into consideration when you're leveraging debt, when you're wanting to, borrow, because granted, we want to be able to borrow in order to be able to reach our goals and achieve our accomplishments or reach our dreams or whatever we want to call the American dream is for our lives. But you also do want to look at it from an affordability standpoint to make sure that you can be able to pay what you're borrowing, because at the end of the day, you are signing your name on that dotted line. You are agreeing to the terms. You are agreeing and saying that I'm willing to repay this at this price. And if that's the case, we want to make sure that we're being honorable in that too. So like, even for me, I've been a caregiver to my mom for many years. I've been a homeowner for a very long time. And even prior to me getting, and I mean, in the beginning, I wasn't a homeowner by choice. I just didn't understand what my mom was doing. And but nonetheless, I've had mortgages in my name early on before I even really understood what a mortgage was, really and truthfully. And even when I went to the space of me wanting to purchase my own home, it hindered me in a lot of ways because I already had a mortgage. And so I had to really think about, okay, like, how am I going to do this from an affordability standpoint? How am I going to do this from this and this and this? And even some of the underwriters, they were like, are you paying? Like, is there a way that you could say, like, you're not paying the mortgage on the other place? And I was like, no, I don't want to do that, because I know that I'm responsible for paying that mortgage. So I don't want to state that this is not what I'm going to be paying when it really is. And then you try to give me something that I can qualify for something higher, which will kind of put me in a hole. So I was like, no, I really want to base it off of this is what I'm going to have to pay in addition to the home that I'm trying to get. So for me, integrity, just goes a long way, and just transparency goes a long way. I'm not trying to like manipulate the system or do any of that. I'm really thinking of, I need to be able to maintain this. And so if I'm taking care of my mom and I'm taking care of me, I got to be able to manage both. So let me really see what I can really afford with both on the table, and not trying to take that off the table so that I can attain more. And then you end up being house poor because you got a mortgage that you can't even afford to furnish the home that you're living in. There's so many instances where that happens, where we're just trying to get more for the house or be able to qualify for more of a home, but the affordability is the key. Affordability is the key. Okay. Whew. That was off topic, but repayment extended again due to lawsuit. How do I check my PSLF status? So I shared this a little bit earlier. So you can check the status of your public service loan forgiveness. And I want to make sure that you are not like mixing the conversations between, because a lawsuit really relates to the one-time debt relief stuff. But public service loan forgiveness is something completely separate and completely different. So if you know that you have public service loan forgiveness, which is PSLF, you can go to mohila.com and you can go to the PSLF tab, and you can go to PSLF form status, and you can type in your information, and it will give you the output of what the status of your form is. If you already have an account with Mohila, or if you already have an account with Student Aid, which you should, FSAID, you can be able to look at your dashboard to see what your PSLF status is. So I would say that would be my first stop shop, to check FSAID and check your dashboard. or if you already have a Mohila account, log into Mohila and check that, or if you don't have a Mohila account yet, but you notice you submitted your PSLF applications, then go to PSLF form status, type in your information under Mohila.com, and it'll give you your updates. They changed from a college to a university. So yeah, if they change from a college to a university, I will put all of that in the claim. I will give them as much information as I can. Mainly evidence of how they misled you will be most important when it comes to submitting your claim for borrower's defense. Okay, Moo, you're welcome. Moo says thank you, you're welcome. All right, stay encouraged. Amen, Q Scott. Tell everybody stay encouraged and keep the faith. Come on, let's go. Yes, that's me. It has negatively affected my credit score and I'm not able to purchase a home, but that and hospital bills are my issue. So the good thing about the hospital bills, and I don't know if you've seen the updates, well, I think it's kind of like medical collections across the board, but if you have medical collections or medical related bills that are on your credit report, it is said that they are not supposed to be reporting those up to a certain number of months or times. And I believe, let me just make sure. Okay, first changes to reporting of medical collection debt. It rolled out July 1, 2022. So I'm going to read this off to you, and I'm pretty sure I did a video on this. It's on my TikTok page, I'm sure. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are jointly introducing the first phase of changes to the reporting of medical collection debt that was announced earlier in 2022. So effective July 1, 2022, all medical collection debt that has been paid by the consumer in full will no longer be included on U.S. Consumer Credit Report. So these are for those of you who have medical collections that you have paid in full. They will not be reflected as a collection on your item. They will be removed. It says that in addition, time period before unpaid medical collection debt will appear on Consumer Credit Report is being increased from 6 months to 1 year, giving consumers more time to address their debt before it is reported on their credit profile. So if you have not paid any medical bills within a 1 year time frame, at that point is when it will begin to be reported on your credit report. But this is effective July 1 going forward. Now, how the treatment is going to work for prior situations, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know how old your medical bills are. I don't know how long you've kind of been in that situation with your hospital bills. But it definitely, if it's less than a year, then you shouldn't see it. But if it is greater than a year, then more than likely it's going to be able to stay on there. But they've been making some changes and they're trying to, give some relief to them, because medical debt is a huge thing for sure. But there's some workarounds and maybe some things that you'll be able to do, especially if it's in collections, because number one, if your information was moved over to credit agency, and I don't know how it's showing up on your credit report, but that could potentially be a HIPAA violation. And that could be something that you could, challenge. I'm just going to say challenge. That could be something that you can challenge if you know the language around HIPAA violations, because that thing get taken off ASAP. Okay, so when will we know about the extended waiver for PSLF? So if you've already submitted your applications, if you've gotten your employer certification forms in, if you've done your part by the deadline for the limited waiver, all you have to do is wait. All you have to do is wait. You have to think about the volume of applications that they've received thus far. It's going to take them some time to process it. The Department of Education has made that very clear. They've said that it's going to take some time for them to get through all of the counts. So as long as you've done what you need to do and you have evidence that you've done what you need to do on your end, we just kind of have to be patient around seeing the results of the extended limited waiver is what Scroller is talking about. So it's kind of like a wait and watch kind of thing. Q Scott dropped the link on how to calculate your net worth. So yes, on my YouTube channel, thank you so much, Q Scott, for dropping that as we're getting ready to conclude, because I got to get myself together for this Vet Your Spending Challenge that's going on my YouTube channel in about 30 minutes. So on my YouTube channel, if you go to the link in my profile, it will take you to several options. Of course, on PSLF information, I have videos on that, how to contact me, so forth. But mainly my YouTube channel link is there. If you go to my YouTube channel, there's going to be several videos, and one of them is one of the videos that Q Scott has just dropped in there on how to calculate your net worth. It is imperative that you know these pivotal numbers for your financial portfolio, so that way you can know how to position yourself and where you stand. Many times we don't take the time to calculate our net worth, and we don't realize that we are actually in negative net worth until we see the number. And just to give you a high level example, net worth is essentially your assets minus your liabilities. And if our liabilities exceed our assets, then that means we have negative net worth. But what we don't oftentimes take a look at is seeing what type of assets do we have and what do we have access to that we can turn into assets that can help us increase our net worth, and at the same time, what debt reduction strategies can we put into play to also help increase our net worth. Because if you look at it from this formula perspective, there's only two ways to increase it, and that's either decreasing the liability or increasing the asset. And so whichever one of those changes for you will work in your favor in terms of improving your profitability, your equity's bottom line, is what I like to call it. But essentially, that's the route that we need to make sure that we're looking at and that we're updating on a frequent basis. Y'all may say it's excessive, but I can pull up my net worth at the drop of a dime because I'm constantly updating it, and I have tools and systems and stuff that I use to keep my information accurate. And I have my budget meetings that I hold with myself each and every week. I have agendas for my meetings where I know what I'm updating and what I'm looking at and what I'm analyzing, how I can evaluate the new value of my asset, because we do know that assets that we have, the value does change, especially in the times that we're in now. So the value of something that you have now may not be the value that you're going to see tomorrow. It could go up or it could go down. And so at any point in time, you need to be able to know what your net worth is. And that's the purpose of knowing that calculation. So I know I said a whole lot tonight, but Q Scott dropped that link in there, and I just wanted to be able to share with you guys around net worth calculation and why that's so important. It's a 30-minute video. I will warn you. It's a 30-minute video, but it's a training that'll bless your life. It'll tell you it'll even point you in the directions of calculators that you can use to figure it out, to kind of assess your value at the cheapest cost possible, because some things, if you do want to get like a more accurate valuation of it, you're going to have to pay. But for purposes of net worth calculation, I don't recommend you paying somebody to give you a value of it. You can do some estimates, and I kind of talk through all of that, but nonetheless, just make sure that you know what that is. What's the student loan? What's the situation with buying student loan debt relief? I just talked about that. I was going over that earlier, but again, it's kind of still in limbo for right now. They are in the process of trying to appeal the Texas District Court's decision to block the one-time debt relief. And so because they have taken it up to the Supreme Court level, they are going through the appeal process, and we're just trying to wait through the litigation. So we're really not going to be able to know much until they continue to work through their litigation situation. So the only thing that I can tell you about that is we have to wait. But in the meantime, they have extended the repayment pause, so we'll be able to not be required to make payments on our federal student loans until either the litigation gets resolved or until, I'm saying like this, until either 60 days after the litigation is resolved, or 60 days after they're able to stand up their program, or 60 days after June 30th, 2023. Whichever comes first is when the payment pause will be lifted and you'll go back into repayment status. So that's the most I can say about that. She addressed that earlier, but she may repeat it if time permits. I did repeat it, Q Scott. I did repeat it, very high level. I did repeat it. Can I inbox you to sign up for assistance with consolidation and building my credit? So I will say this, I have a workshop that is coming up in 2023, early 2023, which is the Credit Improvement Strategies Workshop. I would definitely suggest that you get on the list for that. You can find it. There is also a link in my bio that will take you to the services I offer. So if you go to services that I offer, click on that tab or click on that link, you go all the way down to the bottom. You're going to see an icon that says FICO credit score improvement workshop or something like that. If you click on that, there is a discount on it right now. I think it's $97 for registration for early bird registration for the next workshop. So you can get in there for $97. It's a live workshop that'll change the game for you, walk you through all how to build your credit, how to read your credit, how to analyze your credit. You're going to be able to build your own personalized credit improvement strategies workshop. Credit improvement strategy plan while we're inside of the workshop. So definitely I would suggest that. And then even we go over like your credit report. So we're looking at the loans that you have, and we may even go into some types of scenarios that could kind of high level explain, if you were in this situation, what would you do? And so that's a part of the feedback for those who register that I use to kind of tweak in some of those scenarios inside of our live session. That way it could address the question that you have. So I would definitely recommend and suggest that first, Jazz. If you want to be able to register for that, sign up for that. The dates will be announced. It's about a 3-hour live workshop and 3.5 hour live workshop, but it's definitely a good space to be in, especially if you want to get strategic on how to approach your stuff, for sure. Okay. And yes, Q Scott says yes, emails are welcome, and you can also book a session. Yes, you can. You can book a one-on-one too. One-on-ones are, of course, a little bit more expensive than the group workshop, but either or, whichever one you feel it works best for you, I would love to meet with you. Okay. All right. Which link? So it'll be view services offered, I think is the link that's in there. If you see view services offered or services I offer or something like that in the thing, and then scroll down and you'll be able to see it. But either or. Okay. All right, you guys. I have about 15 minutes to get myself together. I want to be able to drink some tea before I go live. I would love to see you guys over on the live stream tonight as we jump into day 27 of the Video Spending Challenge. Even though we're at the end, you can still pop in and tune in with us for the remainder of the days. We're going all the way through November 30th to kind of get you more money conscious around the holiday season and get your strategy together. Tonight is going to be a fun one. It's going to be a strategic one. It's going to be around game planning and exercising plans of execution in your finances. So I would love to see you guys over there for that. But thank you. And she says, thank you so much for all your info. The Debt Demolisher, you're so welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We will have our next live stream. It's not going to be on Wednesday, and I'm going to tell you why it's not going to be on Wednesday, because Wednesday I have a lot going on. It's the last day of the challenge, and it's the last day of the month, so I have a lot of things going on Wednesday. So the next live stream will be next Sunday. So no live stream this Wednesday. It'll be next Sunday, and I'll make sure that I put the event up there. So for those of you who have questions or want to invite people to join us for the next live stream, then they can pop in for that one. So shout out to Q Scott for moderating our chat tonight. Thank you so much for all of your support. If y'all don't know, Q Scott holds it down for us, not only here on the TikTok page, but also on the Debt Demolisher TV's YouTube channel. So I'm pretty sure if you guys join us over there, you're going to see her holding us down inside of the live stream room on YouTube as well. But thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for the likes and the shares and the follows. I appreciate it all. And I will see you guys 1 week from today. Continue to stay grateful and continue to stay thankful. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.